I know, thank you. Okay, so up next, we have the District 5 council candidates. Now, it's still my understanding that Melissa Kinzer is not here. Is that correct? Is that correct? I'm not seeing anyone out there. It's hard to see, but okay. So, the District 5 encompasses Charleston, and I do promise you, as soon as we're done with District 5, there's going to be a 10 to 15-minute break in between before the mayoral candidates, so just so you know. The District 5 race is Melissa Kinzer and Michael Goodnow, who will be replacing Dino Davis, who is retiring this year. So I want to welcome to the stage, please give it up for Michael Goodnow. All right, so I guess this, unless you want to debate, if you want me to sort of stand in or something weird like that, we'll just do a Q&A session with you so we can let the voters know a little bit about what you'll bring to District 5. So, as we've done before with the previous candidates, tell me a little bit about yourself, your background, and why you think the voters of District 5 would appreciate having Michael Goodnow on the council.
Thanks, Josh, and the Kitsap Sun, and all of you for coming out tonight. I've been a resident in my home here on 6th Street in Bremerton for 15 years, maybe up to the day. I should have looked that up. And I was brought to the Kitsap County area in the Navy, like a lot of folks. I did 20 years in the Navy. I retired, I don't know, some years ago, I think 14 years ago. And I think that my good connection to the military, I've worked on the ships, I've worked on ships in the shipyard, and since I've retired from the Navy, I've done nothing but work for nonprofit organizations. I have done a lot of community outreach, fundraising, and I've worked in HR, so I have a wide range of skills that I think will help. I have a bachelor degree in workforce education and development, and I have a master's degree in organizational leadership. I'm also currently serving on the City of Bremerton's Planning Commission. So I think I have a wide set of experiences, and I think I bring some good values to some of the judgment decision-making that we'll have to make on City Council to keep Bremerton, and to move it forward at the same time.
Okay. Now, Andrew, if you can please put the district map up there so we can get an idea here. So all the way from the shipyard on up through Charleston is indeed the district that you would represent if elected. What do you, in your mind, what's the most pressing issue today facing District 5 and its residents?
So I think a big issue with District 5 is the Charleston district, or Callow Avenue. And just recently I was out and stopped by most of the businesses down there and talked to them. And we've got some really interesting stuff going down there. We've got some diverse businesses, maybe a little edgier than some, but it's interesting. Some of those businesses, I'll just refer to as the 3 Ps. They're really excited to be part of the city. Some of them have been businesses that have been paying taxes down there for 40 years. So they're a part of the city. And but I think I'm also the president of the Downtown Bremerton Association, and I'm hoping to take some of what I've learned working in the downtown district out to the Charleston district and get those business owners working together and finding ways to do some economic development down there and some cohesiveness, and helping them come up with, overcome maybe some of their perception they face.
Now, one thing that we haven't touched on tonight yet is parking. We will be touching on it. I give you my word with the mayoral candidates. But, Mr. Goodnow, tell me, how do we alleviate parking congestion, not only downtown, but District 5 also feels some of that pressure, yes? So what would your solutions be if elected?
Well, I think that it's a complicated issue, otherwise we would have solved it. I would look for maybe some best practices, and if we can find a city that has similar problems or structure that we have. One of the things I think is maybe more park and rides just outside of the city. We don't need the downtown parking spaces being taken up by people who are, in their workspace for 8 hours. But in order to do that, we need much more frequent Kitsap transit. So it might be nice to have a few park and rides with a Kitsap transit shuttle, or maybe somebody else could operate a shuttle, but some way to get that flexibility that people need. And I just think that a big piece of this is we need to encourage people to carpool and to take public transit. And I think that there's a balance here that we have to find. But, you know, just paving more space, I don't think is a solution, and I don't think having commercial parking permits in neighborhoods is a solution either.
Okay. As we talked about with the District 1 candidates, national politics has filtered its way down to the City Council this past year. There's been not only a debate over a possible welcoming city resolution here in Bremerton, but there's also been other things that have bubbled to the surface politically. What perspective, if you can illuminate for us, would you bring to the council, and would you support a welcoming city's resolution?
Yeah, I kind of alluded to this, but I think part of what we're doing is we're voting with our values, and we're trying to figure out the best ways to move the city forward. When I look at the welcoming city issue, you know, there's some semantics that people get hung up on, but you know, what it comes down to for me was, here we have the Bremerton Police Department, who is operating in a certain way that I think helps with law enforcement, it helps people feel safe, and it allows them to fight crime better and keep our city a safer city. And I feel like that the City Council should be backing that up and saying, we agree with that. I think if I was on the Bremerton Police Department and I saw that this is how we're running business, but then our City Council was not willing to back us up, that produces a little concern for me.
Okay. All right, we've touched on tonight a bit affordable housing. District 5, this is also an issue there as it is anywhere else in the city. As a city council, what are some of the practical things you think could be done? And also, there's been talk, and we're going to get into this later with the mayoral candidates, but the Bremerton Housing Authority Housing Kitsap penned an op-ed in the Kitsap Sun about a housing levy, actually levying tax dollars to create more affordable housing. Is that something that you would support, and just generally, what's your stance on affordable housing?
So I'm pro affordable housing. You know, the issue here is, thank you. No, we have to. Okay. We believe that you know, that these folks that are going to be moving here and they're driving some house prices up, and we want to make sure that Bremerton folks can afford to live in Bremerton, and we want to make sure that we're staying ahead of it. All right. But on the other side, one of the problems we have is I think we have a lot of what I would consider substandard housing. And these buildings need to be, these apartment buildings, I can think of one in the district by the Navy base fence line. Those were some rough spaces. And when I was in human services, that was sometimes the last place that I could get someone to live. And there was a reason for it. And so it's this tricky balance. And we would have to look at a levy, and the folks would have to. Again, it's your values too. It's not just we would look at that together. But I think that there's an option to. I'm running out of time.
How about you just keep going? You're one person up here.
All right. Thank you. All right. Last time I was on stage, there was a clown with me. I may have lost my train of thought on that. So, anyways, we just need economic development will help. We need to put some money aside. But the other thing is, we'll make concessions for big developers to come in and do stuff, and we just need to stay on top of that. And I don't think that's something that we set at one time and then we ride with it. We need to continue to look at what we do for developers, and maybe it's even smaller developers or things like that, or assistance. Maybe there's some sort of programs to help people bring this housing that's substandard up without having to incur a huge increase in the rent.
Okay. All right. We've got time for two more really briefly here. I was curious, to that end, just we're having a conversation more or less up here, it feels like. How about the aspect that, a lot of people are coming from Seattle and elsewhere and moving into our city. And now there is a ferry commute that, you know, we have one that's 55 minutes, and most of the time we have one that's around 30 minutes or so. So it's on par with, say, Bainbridge Island. I'm curious, do you view if Bremerton became more of a bedroom community for Seattle, is that a good thing, a bad thing? And how would your work on the council affect that?
So it would not be my first choice. And my first choice would be not getting people to move to Bremerton, but getting businesses to move to Bremerton. And I think that all the same reasons that people might be choosing to live over here from Seattle or that area would be the same reasons that a business might want to come over. Instead of paying the rent in a downtown office space, there's office space that's available here. We could have more space. We could create some, kind of make it more attractive to have more people working over here. And I think that would be a better balance. We have room for other people to move over here. And I don't think we're going to see 1,000 people overnight. So I don't think culturally it's going to change our city that much. But I think that this goes to staying ahead of the problem, whether it's affordable housing, whether it's homelessness. And we know the writing's on the wall. We need to be working to solve those before they're problems.
Okay. Mr. Goodnow, why don't you take 30 seconds or so to just wrap up your candidacy and why you think that you're the choice for District 5.
Well, I love Bremerton. I've sometimes been a self-proclaimed Brem evangelist. I just really enjoy helping other organizations, even businesses. My work with the Downtown Bremerton Association has been extremely rewarding, and I just think that, personally, I sort of felt that running for city council was a next step for me. I had done so much sort of in the trenches and working in grassroots organizations and helping with the downtown and the 4th Street project, the Quincy Square, and I just felt that this was kind of a great next step for me. So that's why I chose to run, and that's why I hope the folks in my district would choose to vote for me. Thank you.
Okay, let's give a round of applause to Michael Goodnow. All right, everybody. We'll take here about 10 minutes or so, take a 10-minute break. All right, everybody.